War Crimes Tribunal at The Hague. Plus, a fighter's return to Afghanistan reignites resentment of US-run detention centers. Well, it's just gone past midnight in Egypt, where hundreds of thousands of pro-democracy protesters took to the streets again on Tuesday. Their message was clear: President Hosni Mubarak must go. Some estimates say the crowd was the biggest yet. And as Jackie Rowland reports, newcomers swelled the ranks of the pro-democracy movement.
The youth of Egypt is leading this revolution, and the protesters are getting younger by the day. The slogans are well known by now. The people want Mubarak to leave. But it never hurts to have a memory jogger. The protesters want democracy, and they've already achieved it in the square. Everyone has a voice. Mubarak is still in power, but the mood is one of euphoria. The people are celebrating their newfound freedom to speak their minds.
It's my first day to come out here. I'm so overwhelmed that finally I have like a chance to speak up my right, to stand for all the people who died.
In Egypt we have 7,000 years of civilization, and we are the same, and we go back, not go forward, not forward.
Demonstrations are now breaking out in different parts of Cairo. Thousands of people went to the Parliament building to make their voices heard. If the politicians won't hear their message, they'll take the message to the politicians. But Tahrir Square remains the epicenter, and people continue to come in their hundreds of thousands. Not one demonstration, but many. Everyone has their own way to protest, in words, in pictures, in song. But the message is always the same. The people want the removal of the regime.
The vigil in the square is turning into an endurance test. The slogans are the same. They're calling on Mubarak to leave now. But the people who come here day in and day out realize that they're in it for the long haul.
Hundreds of people have died since this uprising began, but new Egyptians continue to be born. This is Sarah's first visit to the square. She's 1 month old. The writing on her headband says "Leave." Her father hopes she will grow up in a new Egypt. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Well, one issue fueling Egypt's unrest is poverty, but some say they're being plunged deeper into the red as the rallies continue. Hard-hit fishermen and small business owners are calling for a return to normality. Emike Amulu reports.
Making money from these waters hasn't been easy lately. Alexandria is famous for its fishing. The industry is a lifeline for many. But even before January 25th, business here was dwindling. Now fishermen out on the daily catch, a tradition unbroken for generations, say things have gone from bad to worse.
We are suffering. All the people are suffering. Everybody's livelihood was stopped. We are sitting and not doing anything.
We want to have a good salary for these poor fishermen and to live and work. That's all we want. We want nothing else. We just want to feed our children. We have nothing to do with politics.
This group feels it's on the receiving end of protests taking place just a short distance from here. It says with all the disruption, with so many people out of work, their usual buyers are opting for cheaper food. And it's been like this for 2 weeks. Alexandria's fishermen aren't the only ones who want things to get back to normal. 2 weeks ago, these narrow streets in Giza just outside Cairo were bustling. Tourists on camels, souvenir shops heaving with customers. But the tourists have left in their droves. The few that remain can see Giza's main attractions, but through a fence. The pyramids, open for centuries, are now closed for business. For each day the protests continue, Egypt is losing millions of dollars. In downtown Cairo, many shops remain shut. Owners are desperate to go back to work.
These people aren't thinking straight. They think they aren't harming anyone staying there, but they're harming someone like me, and they're harming so many others.
Cairo shop owners like Alexandra's fishermen know they have another quiet day ahead on Wednesday, but hope protesters soon run out of steam. Emiko Molu, Al Jazeera.
Just to bring you an update from Egypt, the Vice President, that's Omar Suleiman, he's warning that the protests that we've seen in Egypt over the past 2 weeks cannot be allowed to continue for a long time. This is according to Reuters, and this is what Omar Suleiman, the Vice President of Egypt, has been saying. Also, in the last few minutes, the UN Secretary General, he's addressed the crisis in Egypt, and he says that an orderly transition of power is crucial.
As protests and discussions continue, I call on all parties to avoid violence and to ensure freedom of expression and information. Second, the Egyptian people are clearly frustrated and are calling for bold reforms. It is incumbent on the Egyptian leadership and that of any other country in the world to listen attentively to the legitimate concerns and aspirations of their people. A third, an orderly and peaceful transition is crucial. I hope that the genuine dialogue between the leaders and the people will lead to the beginning of such a process. The details of that process, and indeed the future course of their country, are entirely for the Egyptian people to define. The United Nations stands ready to provide any assistance.
France's Prime Minister has admitted that President Hosni Mubarak paid for him and his family to go on holiday in Egypt. Francois Fillon has also revealed that he was provided with a plane to go sightseeing. The vacation took place over the new year, and these revelations come as France's foreign minister is fending off calls to resign over a holiday in Tunisia during last month's protests there. A lawyer for the former Liberian president, Charles Taylor, has stormed out of his UN War Crimes Tribunal. Courtney Griffiths left the proceedings in The Hague after judges refused to accept a last-minute document. Nadim Baba has more.
Just the latest row at the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Judges did not allow lawyers for Charles Taylor to submit a final document because they'd missed a January deadline. The defence called it a farce before walking out.
We do not feel that it could be appropriate for us to take part in the oral presentation when a majority of you have refused to accept our written submissions.
If Mr. Taylor thinks he can make orders or disobey orders of this court at his will, simply on the basis that it's in his best interest to do so, then he's running this court, not us.
The former president of Liberia faces 11 charges, including terrorism, murder, rape and the maiming of thousands of people. The prosecution says Charles Taylor funded and armed fighters over the border in Sierra Leone. In return, he allegedly received so-called blood diamonds. After fleeing to Nigeria, Taylor was arrested in 2006. His trial started the following year. The defence team now want more time to respond to a cable recently released by WikiLeaks. In it, the US ambassador to Liberia warns that if Taylor's allowed to return to the region, it could, quote, tip the balance in a fragile peace.
Because that WikiLeaks cable says, in effect, Taylor has to be convicted, he has to be given a long sentence, and if he isn't, the US government should be taking steps to ensure that they can put him on trial in the United States in order to keep him out of West Africa. What were we supposed to do when we saw that?
The verdict's due later this year, and under a previous agreement, if Taylor receives a prison sentence, he's expected to be jailed in Britain. Nadim Baba, Al Jazeera.
Southern Sudan's President Salva Kiir has returned home, promising to work with his northern counterpart, Omar al-Bashir. That's the northern counterpart. On Monday, the final results of the country's landmark referendum showed the South had voted overwhelmingly for secession from the North. Haru Matassa reports from Juba.
Salva Kiir returned to Southern Sudan with an enormous challenge. The region's president gets a warm welcome from people who voted overwhelmingly for secession in last month's referendum. After months of political wrangling, he promised to reward President Omar al-Bashir for letting the South go peacefully.
We will work together to help Sudan regain its pride. We will assist in persuading the world to remove sanctions from Sudan. we will appeal together for the removal of the Sudan name from the countries that are in the list of terrorist countries.
President Kiir also promised to work with the Khartoum government to end the conflict in Darfur. It seems all is on track for Independence Day on the 9th of July. People here are still savoring this historic moment, but voting for secession was the easy part. Setting up a government capable of standing on its own feet is one of many challenges.